Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tons of Productions podcast on this Monday, March 18th, 2019. Today, I have a conversation with Kohl Jones, who is an assistant location manager in the film industry. She's been doing this quite a while. She started back in 2002, I believe, as a production assistant and moved her way up doing scouting and stuff in the office, and is now an assistant location manager and is one of the premium people you can talk to for sure. I totally enjoy the interview because that was my department, and she doesn't have much online, just IMDb, some of the shows she's done, but the advice she gives is really great, especially to people who are brand new in the film industry. So I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. Without any further ado, here is Kohl Jones. You are listening to the Tons of Productions podcast. Yeah, exactly. And work when I drop stuff off. Yeah. So I'll just jump right into it. Where were you born? Where did you start your?
I am from Ontario. I'm from London, Ontario.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's hilarious.
I was born there, and then I moved to a little place called Lakeside around Harrington, Zora County.
Okay.
And lived there till I was 10, and then moved out to BC.
Nice.
Yeah.
When you were 10. So where in BC did you move to?
Penticton.
Ah.
Yeah, so I'm an Okanagan girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 10 years old, yeah, you kind of only started remembering.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything that I identify with BC and right. Penticton. You know, I don't really think, I mean, I have fond memories of Ontario, but yeah, I'm a BC girl.
Yeah. Hey, I moved here when I was 23, and I'm a BC boy.
Right?
Yeah. And
that's what happens. People come and they never want to leave.
Yeah, me and my friends all call it Onterrible because it is all bugs. And I'm not putting down Ontario, actually. You know, my whole family's from there, and I have fond memories of Toronto and a couple things.
Yeah, it's a great place to visit, I think.
It is, but I love it here.
Yeah, absolutely, me too.
So you grew up in Penticton, and that was your. Did you know you wanted to get into film, or is that something that came about?
No. I was just a typical kind of teenager running around being crazy and wild and all that good stuff. I think my parents were just happy that I graduated high school, to be honest. No doubt. But when I was in the 12th grade, my dad went to the Vancouver Film School.
Okay.
So I'll kind of rewind a little bit. I have a cousin who started one of the first digital graphics companies in Canada. Okay. And I think it was called Core. And that was, you know, like long before anybody was shooting on digital. Like this was
before internet, before
I think
YouTube,
William Shatner
obviously
was involved or something. Like that's the legend. I don't know if it's true, but literally this is like a very, very long time ago. So I was 16 and my dad was talking to my cousin and said, hey, you know, how does a plumber from Penticton get in the film industry? This seems really interesting. You know, my dad's always been that kind of guy. He's done lots of different things over his life, and a real go-getter. So like if he's interested in something, like he goes all in and he makes it happen. So my cousin said, you know, you should go to the Vancouver Film School and you know, see what happens from there. And my dad did, and he was, I think, 50-ish.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was like the oldest student in the school, probably.
Yeah, and it worked out really well for him because he was really interested. So he actually moved down to Vancouver. My mom and I stayed in Penticton like my last year of school. And then when I graduated, they both just came down here. My dad was, you know, really into it. He would first AD and location manager, like small stuff, like independent stuff out of film school. And then he was actually working as a PA on The Butterfly Effect when I was, I want to say 19.
Butterfly Effect, that is...
Yeah.
That's a while ago,
2002, right? I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was really, you know, kind of going nowhere real fast in a little town called Calgary, Alberta. And I was there for a few months in waitressing and stuff, and my parents knew that this wasn't something that they wanted for me for the rest of my life. So my dad said, "Hey, why don't you come down and give this a shot? I'll get you work as a PA," and I did, and that's where it all began.
Really? Yeah. So you never went to film school?
My dad went to film school, so I didn't have to. That's what I tell people. And he's actually...
that's so good.
Yeah, and we're Métis, so he actually was able to get funding through the Métis Association at the time.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was something that he wanted to aspire to kind of give a little back, so he wrote a script that was based on a Métis man. It's never been made, but it's a wonderful script and I love it, and it's something that's been worked on over years and years, and who knows, my husband's a pseudo filmmaker himself, so they're always talking about doing stuff, so that would be really interesting if that happened.
Yeah, no, I totally I look up to your husband Jason immensely because he's helped me a lot in all my projects and stuff, and even coming down to giving me a job. Like, he has been nothing but kind to me and treated me like it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
He's a wonderful human being. He's a great father, and his dream is to be a filmmaker as well.
Yeah.
And then what often happens in this industry is when getting into the industry, kind of your path changes, right? So he got into the rentals part of things. Yeah. And had, I think, the idea that, there'd be like, kind of that's how you'd meet people, kind of that's where you'd start. And now he's like the general manager.
I know, it sucked him in, and no, he didn't stop writing. I've read a lot of stuff he wrote, and he kept it up. It's not like he just totally stopped, but
no, he is an avid writer. He writes with a gentleman of the name of Sandano Schultz, who's a very good friend of ours
Sandano.
too. Yeah, I worked with Sandano many, many, many years ago.
I worked with him 2 years on Arrow.
Yeah, it was. It was wonderful to work with Sandano, but now, unfortunately, he has Parkinson's disease. Right. So, as it's a degenerative disease, he is no longer able to kind of maintain the tasks in the office and stuff like that he used to. But, mentally he's all there, and they're writing, and they're...
he's a super guy, too. I've talked to him a couple times, and my grandmother had Parkinson's, so I'm totally used to that. So I can look beyond it. I think a lot of people get a little kind of freaked out with something like that. Yeah. But if you've been around it in your life, then
absolutely, and it's something that you just kind of accept that this is how it is, right? So Jason spends actually a lot of time with Sandano. They optioned a book and wrote a script on a book.
Last time I saw him,
really
he was
interesting.
Talking.
Yeah. So I really encourage all that kind of stuff. He's like the dreamer, right? I just fell into this, and I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, I started waitressing when I was like 12 years old, working in restaurants when I was 12. So I was trained to work on set. I was trained to deal with these personalities from a young age. You
were actually very like me. My first job was 12 years old.
Yep.
And labor jobs my whole life, and I fell into film as well. It's not. I went to go to film school. It was the exact same sort of thing later in life for me, but it was one of those things that just comes to you, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and what a wonderful path! What a wonderful career just kind of fall in your lap. Fortunately for us, I know there's a lot of people out there that it's their dream, and they work really hard, and it doesn't always work out how you thought it would. Right?
Well, yes, I think that when people walk into celebrity and there's stars in their eyes, and we come from a blue collar work, I can outwork you. Are you kidding me? I can stay. I've stood for 24 hours. Let's see you do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I envy the dreamers. I envy the people that want to be more of the creative end of this and really have that imaginative ability to put these things on paper and to express them in such a way that people read them and see them in their head and see how it's going to be created. Like that to me, it's just like so much pressure. Well, I'm like, hey, listen, I can make sure people don't walk through your lockup, and I can do that's obviously we do a lot more than that, but
but you can handle
the tangible things,
logistics,
right? That's tangible to me. That's something on a daily basis. Those are problems that I can solve, and that's my jam. So it's like front of house and back of house in a restaurant or any other industry. You know what I mean?
But like striking emotion someone, making them cry or laugh.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
That was something I got involved in with writing too, and I realized that it was quite a skill, and it takes a long time. I've been writing for about 10 years now, and I'm only getting to the point where I can really put together some good stuff, but I don't have it all. Like, there's so many different things. One of the guys I interviewed, his thing is comedy fighting. And I watched some of his videos, and it's like he's Asian. It's like a Jackie Chan kind of thing where they fight and they use the entire environment, but it's almost funny while they're fighting. And that's a skill to write that.
Well, and how do you even go about writing that? Like,
There you go.
But I guess there's just as many ways that a person can think it, they can write it, right? So every individual person is going to have their own take on what that looks like to them and how to describe that to people that have never seen it before.
It's just like music.
Yeah.
Everyone's individual. They have their own thing. Jason's got his stuff, and he works really good with Sandano. They're compatico or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah. So.
Totally.
So when you started PAing, what was the show?
So I originally was going to work on the butterfly effect. So I came over. I want to say at this point I was 20 or just about 20, and they didn't have any days right away for me. So my dad had made connections. So he called a show called Taken. And at the time, it was one of the biggest shows that was being shot.
Was it a movie?
Here.
Yeah,
it
Taken.
was. No, so it wasn't the movies. It was actually like a drama. And it was like a drama series. And it was Steven Spielberg. And it was about alien invasion.
Okay, that's good.
And Dakota Fanning was in it.
Oh,
and
she was
a little girl. She was like 5 years old. So my first experience on film was out at this big farm in Langley. So it was this farmhouse, and it was the last kind of month of filming, and this last kind of month of filming was all like, the big conclusion, the big, aliens are coming, and they're in this farmhouse and the whole nine yards. So it was really cool to be part of that and to be on set and to kind of cut my teeth on that for sure.
Was a lot of cool special effects and stuff too?
Yeah, and there was, army vehicles and guns and, like just everything that you want your first experience to be. That's kind of what it was. And a family experience at that point, because they'd all been together for like 10 months or something like that.
So I
kind of came in at the end, but they were all like...
And you were a kid.
Yeah.
So they're kind to you, and they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and they were all done. Right? So all the PAs on the show, they were like, okay, we're done. So any kind of fresh meat, they were like, okay, let's try to figure out what they can do and get them to do it so we don't have to, so we can just start to mellow out of this show already, right? Because I think it was really high stress.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a big show. From what I hear, I mean, I was only there.
Well, the last
for a tenth
month.
Of it.
Yeah, the 10th month. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went over to Butterfly Effect. And Ken Brooker was the assistant location manager.
Okay, I know Ken.
And Louisa Gratnitzer was the location manager.
Okay. And
my dad was a prep PA, so one of my first kind of prep experiences was Highcroft with my dad, prepping it.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, that was a really cool experience getting to work with my dad.
Well, that place is beautiful.
Yeah, and it was a great crash course on how to prep something and do it properly because it's such a sensitive location, right? So...
Oh, it is. They only put the best there, usually because it's so... for people who don't know, it is a mansion, basically.
Yes.
And it is gorgeous, and you have to be really careful of... you're in charge of the crew coming in and out of the place. You have to make sure they don't leave footprints or scratch the walls, that kind of thing. You gotta... Yeah. And... like you said, that's a really high-end place, so you have to be on your game.
Yeah. And it's really, really old, and it's been used for a lot of different things. Like the history is insane. So, you have to be careful that you're not, taking a flat and scraping the walls and like, this wallpaper is like however, 60, 70, 80, 190 years old, who knows, right?
Is that the place that also has the cloth wallpaper?
Quite possibly.
I don't know. I think that one of the rooms has like a cloth wall, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's rich.
Yeah. And how do you fix that? Like, really?
Exactly. Oh, sorry. I caught it on my elbow. Yeah.
Exactly. So, so that was really cool. And my dad, I guess, was quite popular because he was older and he was a PA and he's kind of, he's a funny guy and he...
Responsible. That's really what they're looking for.
Yeah, but also like a lot of fun, right? I think he was having a lot of fun at that time in his life. You know, he was PAing with younger people, and he was kind of living his best life, like this whole brand new thing. And and super exciting for him, and then super exciting for him to be able to bring me into that, so we got to experience it together. So that was really cool.
Well, it's good to see the passion in him, because it takes a certain kind of person to do this job.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to not only physically endure it, because it's pretty heavy duty, but also positive attitude and the passion to get the project done for the day, and look at the big picture rather than look at, well, I've been here for so many hours, or I'm, I haven't had my lunch yet, or whatever it is, right?
I think it's like it's a certain work ethic, right? And I noticed that, I share that work ethic with my father. He taught me that. And I, again, started working really early. And my sister was my first manager, and she's 17 years older than me. So when I was 12, there was no leaning around. All the other kids could kind of do whatever, but if I was there, I better be working.
Wow.
And so it just was really kind of drilled into me from a young age. So getting to work with my dad and kind of show him what I had to was really great. And that was just a really good show to work on. I've actually made lifelong relationships.
Nice.
So that was 17-ish years ago now. So I just finished a show with Ken Brooker, who's now a location manager.
That's hilarious.
Right? And Andre Detz was on the show I was just on, and he was the TAL. He was the trainee on the Butterfly Effect.
And was he first?
Was
on this one or no?
No, so Andre Detz was the Prep ALM.
Oh, he's the Prep ALM,
and he location managers as well. But we're kind of a family in a sense, right? So if somebody needs a hand, and it's like, you know what, they won't give me another location manager or whatever, you know what I mean? So he comes in and Prep ALM.
Well, that seems to be the new thing. I don't know if it's new. I guess it's been but 5 years that I've noticed it. But the Prep ALM, some people who are LMs already take the Prep ALM gig because they're nice people.
Yeah.
Sure, I get cut by pay by whatever, but I get to work every day with really cool people, so I'd rather do that.
Yeah, and you're kind of there to help with what is happening, as opposed to being the one that has all that on your shoulders. Right. You know what I mean? So yes, you're not making as much money, but your stress levels is in a different capacity than what maybe location managers could be, right? You have somebody else to make the ultimate decision. You're not the one that has to do that, you gather the information, you pose the question, they make the decision, and you don't have to be
you say, this is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's something that that's ultimately what I do. Prep ALM at this point. So I work in the office, but
because I thought you were still scouting. I didn't even know what you were doing, because you're not online. There's no
I know, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. I'm just old school like that. I don't.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I went to research
but it's
you.
Funny. Exactly. No, I've had people say the same thing. They're like, "Well, how come you haven't friended me on Facebook?" I'm like, I don't take it personally. Just don't do it.
Oh, my wife doesn't either. She goes through mine.
That's just the way to go, right? I personally, for me. But yeah, I just kind of am under the radar these days. I've done everything in the location department. I've done, except for location man. I've never been a location manager, but I've done.
But you were in ALM for quite a few years.
I was an on-set ALM, Prep ALM, location scout, and now what I do is basically Prep ALM / runner. So I am really, really fortunate to work for Rich Renault and Jessica Feskin, who are kind of my main crew of people. And we do a lot of TV shows. So then I get to work with other location managers who are the even or the odd location managers. So I get to work with other teams as well, but they're kind of my main team. And it's great because I go out and I pay people checks.
Yeah, I did the exact same job on Supernatural.
That's the best job. It's really my dream job. So I take the stress off of everybody else. So I jump in and if paperwork needs to be done, I can do that. If the city needs to be talked to, I can jump into any role that is needed. And then when I'm not needed in that capacity, I am doing buyouts for filming and running checks and do the lettering and the polling. And so I get to meet everyone in the communities. And, I have one foot firmly planted in reality and the other in this crazy,
in the real world and the film world
we call film. Yeah.
Oh no, I always talk about how there's two different worlds, and people who work in film for a long period of time, they lose touch with reality.
Yes, especially if you're on set. especially if I don't know how a lot of people that have been doing this for 30 years, how do they park when they go to the grocery store on Saturday without somebody showing them exactly where to go and tell them they're too far, they're too close to the car beside them, and how do they get by without arrows to where the washrooms are, and
and
what
also
I mean?
the ego and arrogance that some of the people carry on set. But if you get them off in reality, forget it. They're just some schmo.
They're just some person, who has to figure out their own Saturday, Sunday, and not have somebody, that must be really difficult.
Well, there's that, and there's also being 24/7 on the clock, even though by law they can't do that, but they still do in film. As soon as you reach ALM or higher, 24/7, I'm calling you on a Sunday at 3 a.m. going, hey, this parking's not going. Why didn't you get the permit, or whatever it is? There could be all kinds of different fires to put out.
100%. Even in the role that I have, because I deal so much with the community, I get calls Saturday, Sunday, 9 o'clock at night. My card is out there. I'm kind of the first person that they meet from the film set, right? So, and I'm sure to tell them, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to call me at any time. And like us, other people work funny hours and everything too, right? So I have no problem. I know a lot of people that don't. 5 o'clock on Friday, that phone is off.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I totally respect that. It's just not who I am.
Me either.
I just can't turn it off. It's always on, and I never have a big problem with it. Once in a while, if somebody knows that I'm doing something special and they're still calling me, and that's come on.
Yeah.
Come on, just give me 5 minutes, But it doesn't happen often. So otherwise, I really enjoy the whole experience.
But you have the work ethic where if something needs to be done, you're going to do it.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of actually a parallel with Jason one time. I had to set up this stuff, and I was working the nights, and I loaded the truck, and then I got home, and I'm in bed, and I forgot to put something on the truck. And it was 1:30 in the morning, and I sat up in bed, and I'm like, oh my God, the guy's going to leave it. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I got dressed, got in my car, went back to work, loaded the stuff on, because I can't sleep from then on. I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I know you're like that too.
100%.
I have to do it.
And I have to do it right now.
Yeah.
There's no, I think, and I hate to say, millennial. I think you hear all the millennial generation, but I am technically a millennial, and I do not feel like I am owed anything. That is just not how I was raised. Now, my brother and sister are 13 and 17 years older than me, so I was raised, I think, probably just different than a lot of kids my age.
Right.
But even so, a lot of people my age, I think it's kind of the 10-year younger, where there's this idea that, okay, well, I've gone to school and I've gone to film school, and how come I'm not making my $1 million movie now?
Right.
Or they go and they don't realize that, when you PA, it's work and it's tedious, and that's where you start.
Well, you and I are an example of you don't really need film school unless you're going to a technical thing.
I totally agree.
If you're going to do a camera, you're going to do audio, something that you want to get into, then that schooling helps. But other than that, if you're going to... I don't know.
Experience is the best schooling
you
could ever have, right? I swear by everything that I learned the first 4 years I worked in film. So that was, the 2 shows we had talked about, Taken and Butterfly Effect. But then I also started working on Da Vinci's Inquest that year.
Okay, I remember that.
And that was a life-changing experience for me. I worked on that show for, I want to say, 4 years.
And it's still PA?
Seasons. Yeah, so I started just brand new PA, and then by the 3rd or 4th season, I was the key PA, the on-set key PA.
Nice.
But we worked in the downtown east side every day, and the story was about the downtown east side. So I learned more about Vancouver in those 4 years than I think, anybody that ever went to Vancouver History School.
Well, I got a question for you about that, actually. This is totally off film topic, because I've always heard some rumors and some different stuff about the downtown east side.
Yeah.
And what I heard was there's gateways to a city that's underneath the city. Is that true?
I don't believe so. I think that there's tunnels and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
So I've never heard about a city underneath a city, but there's definitely tunnels, and you used to be able to film in them. There was tunnels underneath, I want to say...
Gastownish?
Gastownish, because there was like the whole history of the rum runners and everything here too, right? But also in the different societies, like the Chinese society buildings and stuff like that, there'll be tunnels that go from there to like different stores, shops and stuff like that as well. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool things. Like, I mean, Vancouver, it's not super old. It's not like Montreal old, but it's old enough to have its own culture for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I was just curious because I've only learned from people who say all this and that, and it's usually rumor stuff. But you've obviously were down there a lot, so I'm sure you've learned so much that it's just...
It's crazy to see it now, because when I first started, so that again, that would have been 2002, it did not look like it looks now. Gentrification is a thing. It is a big thing down there. So going into a coffee shop today that I used to have to like take a crowbar to get the plywood off the front door so we could go in, so we could clean it out, so we could put like background holding or something in there.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And like it's just crazy to see I think it's wonderful. I think a lot of it's been restored beautifully. But it's a different place. It's a different place for sure.
Wow. So, and what years was that?
So that would have been 2002, 3, 4, and 5 probably.
Okay.
Yeah. I also did a movie about a documentary called Through a Blue Lens. And that was shot here, and that was shot by VPD, and it was like a documentary that they made, and they followed people from the downtown east side. And then we made the movie about the making of the documentary, basically. And that was the Da Vinci Crew. And that was really interesting too, because, you know, the people that these guys interviewed are still down there, right? So you're making this movie about these people who have been, and they'll walk by and they'll be like, yeah, that was me. I was, you know, she's playing me. And you're like, wow.
That's
you know?
wild.
Yeah. It's you know, it's its own entity.
It can be heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
It's hard to have sympathy for someone who puts himself in that situation. And in my life, I look at someone who hurts themselves and then goes, oh, help me. You think, what the hell, you know? But there are people like being beaten and molested and fucked up mentally, screwed up. That's just where it leads. That's where the drain drains, and they have no other choice.
Absolutely. And, you know, mental health and all of the factors that lead up to and revolving around your mental health is all an individual thing, right? So that's what I learned down there. You know, a lot of times you think there's so many people down there, and don't get me wrong that there is, but if you stand in one spot, you'll see the same person 20 times. So there's this kind of like illusion, like there's like thousands of these people down there when it's like hundreds of these people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they all have a story. They
Yes.
all have a story. They all mainly just want to tell you their story too, because like they're high, you know, and they want to talk and they want to be seen, and they're sick of feeling like nobody sees them, like they're totally invisible. And a lot of times, you know, when you get past the, hey, can I have like 25 cents or whatever, when you're a PA down there and you're not going anywhere, that person has your full and undivided attention, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
I've filmed down there a few times.
So I just learned to start to listen and ask questions, and I really realized that it's not what it seems like down there, you know? Like it's not just drugs and people that made bad choices. It's a lot of people that had some just zero choice over what way their life was going to go. You know?
Or they just had one shitty hand dealt after another.
Yeah.
Their wife left them. They lost their job. They lost everything. Their kids hate them. They end up being an alcoholic, and boom.
Yeah. They're born into it.
Yeah,
There's
that can happen too.
people that are born in the downtown east side, and you don't really realize that people come from there.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And yeah, exactly. They're born, and that's just their life.
Yeah.
My friend was touring Europe, and he said he'd go to squats. And squats are like, they're kind of like abandoned buildings that punk rockers have taken over.
Yes.
And there's people these people are like unshowered, gross.
They're like the modern day hippie.
They are.
Yeah,
they're not
I know.
homeless poor. They're just...
They don't have to live there.
No.
It's almost like a communal...
And some people are born there, he said.
Yeah.
Live their whole lives.
Yeah.
It's just unreal.
Yeah.
And they don't have those in Canada or whatever. It's the same thing. But
no, because a lot of them are like buildings that were ruined in the Second World War that were never fixed.
Yeah.
So I had a girlfriend that she was like a squatter, basically.
Oh, yeah.
That I met. She was a, I call her a child of the world. We met in Thailand, and she's actually from Finland. But she's just all over the world, all over the place, and very hippie, very, and she like free. I think ultimately, yeah, like she would get a job when she needed some money, or, the earth would provide. And it always did. She, literally one day was like, I could use a bike to maybe get around. And that day some dude was like, hey, I've got this bike. Would you like this bike? And I'm like, people like that, you just like, those are the true people that just live.
They live in the now, and they take faith in that everything will be provided, and the universe will just provide them. And if it doesn't now, it doesn't.
It doesn't, and they
don't care.
They move on. They don't care, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful thing, because I couldn't live in like some bombed out building. You know what I mean? That would not be my style. But again, it's like the dreamer thing. I'm kind of envious that is some people's path in life.
But then again, there's also there's people who would never live in the house you live in.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
I like my house.
No, I'm not saying it's bad by any means. What I'm saying is,
completely agree.
Wherever you are on the scale, there's always someone who is way above and go, oh, I would never live there. You're like, I love this place. I love my apartment.
Exactly, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But yeah, I guess that's just the things that I love about people and the different personalities. You know what I mean? Like I so enjoy things like these podcasts, right? Listening to podcasts and just hearing real people's stories. I think it's fantastic. It's way more intriguing to me sometimes than the TV shows that I participate in making.
Working in film, I always state that a lot of film people don't watch TV that much. We're very picky.
Yeah.
It's got to be a really catchy series to catch me. Otherwise, I don't care. Whatever. I got to work on something. I don't even watch what I work on.
And who's got time? Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
From my house 18 hours
and
a day.
You're a mom. Yeah. On top of that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that has really helped me, to be honest, because when I got pregnant with Freddie, I had to make a decision, and I had to figure out real quick what my priorities were going to be. And I had enough experience in this industry with people that are unhappy strictly because of the work that they do, but they have to do the work they do because they're paying mortgages, or they're paying alimonies, or they're paying child support for kids who resent them because they never get to see them. And you know what I mean? So
I've met lots of those people.
Yeah, right. And we know who those people are. And it's tough when you have kids, because you that's your most important job in life. Like, I will never have a more important job.
More than money, more than any job.
More than anything, being there, being present. So, we make sure that, we don't have a nanny, we don't do any of that kind of stuff. And not that I'm knocking that, because also being a parent, I do understand that it's not necessarily the fully fulfilling, satisfying thing that everybody needs, right? Some men and women need to pursue their dreams and to be successful in their own right? And sometimes that's not necessarily conducive to being home all the time or whatever, but so they do things differently. But it's just not, we wanted to make sure that we were raising Freddie and not someone else.
And you've done an incredible job. But it was also one of those things where she's a product of real love. When you see you and your husband together, there is a connection, just like you see when me and my wife together. Absolutely. There's a connection where it's hard to explain.
It is, because sometimes I want to kill him. So, love's a funny thing, right?
Yeah.
But when, I wouldn't have done this with anybody other than Jason. Like, when I met Jason, that just changed everything for me.
Well, you knew you wanted to have a child then.
Yes, and I felt different about him than any other man that I'd, ever dated. Like, this was just a different situation, and I knew right away that, like, I was going to change. Things were going to change, and they did, and they changed for the best, and I would not take a second of it back. I think it's all been great, and for me, I realized, what kind of stress I'm willing to be under, and what kind of stress I am not willing to be under. Right. So being a mom, that kind of stress, that's all the stress that I need, and I don't need to live this stressful life at work where I'm coming home and not being able to deal with that stress and compounding that with the mother stress. And so I have a job that is quite stress-free.
Which
I'm
is
there to
great.
help other people with their stress, so that when I go home, I might answer a phone call here or there or reply to an email, but otherwise, like, I am present.
Not like the ALM days where you were the boss.
That would be impossible. That would just and I did it here and there since Freddie has been born. Like I've filled in for people. You know, you get that phone call. You're like, oh, come on, I gotta go away, and you know, I need somebody for just 1 week, and you know, and you go, yeah, okay, and you do it, and then you remember real quick why you did not do this anymore.
I had a couple of friends that did it for a while, and they ended up tallying.
Yeah.
And they were doing that for a long time, and they're like, oh yeah, they kind of forgot. And then they went back to ALM, and they're like, oh my God, after 2 weeks, they're like, why did I sign up for this?
No, a good ALM is hard to come by, to be totally honest. And I work with some fantastic ALMs, Jessica Feskin.
Yes,
and Kevin McLean is fantastic. Clayton Carroll, these people that I've just been working with. And I think that the main kind of ingredient you need to do that job is to just chill.
Yes.
Just chill.
You don't own the production.
Right? And you know, there's always a solution to the problem as long as you focus on the solution and not the problem. And I think that's where the chill comes in, right? Because a lot of people get really like worked up because what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And they're so worried about what are they going to do that they're not thinking about what they're going to do.
And not running to the LM every time you have a problem.
Absolutely. And you know what? The movie gets made. So, you know, sometimes you just have to make decisions, and, you know, it might be the right decision. You might go, okay, I would have made a different decision, but it's never going to be the wrong decision because that's the decision made. So you have to accept it once you've made it, and then, you know, kind of trust your gut and use your experience.
Exactly. And every time you learn something, next time you'll remember because you're put in that situation.
100%. And if you make the same mistake over and over, then you need to rethink your career.
Well, that was the whole idea with my book when I wrote the Am I the Idiot on Set?
That was fantastic. I love that because you know what? You probably are. If you're if you're thinking that, you probably are. Like if you're not confident in what you're doing, you probably need to learn a thing or two. And that was such a great like play-by-play, this is what you need to know. That's like a little Bible.
It is a little book that you put in your back pocket. It's kind of guide, but it's kind of like what your dad did in a sense, where I was the idiot, so you don't have to be.
100%.
I screwed up, so don't screw up because here's the book, read this.
Yeah. We used to make little cheat sheets. I know my ALM on Da Vinci's, Renee, would hire her friends, right? Because it'd be busy. So she'd hire friends that she used to work with and stuff like that, and they'd come in and she'd have a little cheat sheet for them, and it would say like the walkie channels and always go to 2, never ask to go to the washroom on channel 1, copy, no matter what is said, copy it. Whether you agree or don't agree with it, just copy it and we'll deal with it later. And that's like my mantra, like copy.
Yeah.
Copy. You know, because, you know, a very good friend of mine once said, like, be the river.
Oh, yeah. Be a part of the flow.
Be the river, because you know what? The river goes around the rock. The rock doesn't stop the river. So you got to be the river. And that totally, like, works for me, right? So if I'm asked to do something that I think might be really stupid and it's not my job, I'm not going to be jumping up and down. I'd be like, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
You know, just do it. Unless it's something totally absurd.
And stupid or cost the production money or something.
Yeah, and I would never do something like I wouldn't have to get permission to do or whatever. But, you know, you work with a lot of people that, you know, just no. And I was taught that is never the answer. That was the first thing that I was taught, was that no is never the answer. Let me see. I'll look into it. You know, whatever it is that they're asking, the answer is not no.
It's copy.
It's copy.
Yeah.
And if you are me, somebody else makes more money than you that makes those decisions. So I go copy, and then I say, hey, so-and-so wants this.
Yeah,
what do you think about that? You know, but my job is never to say no. My job is to say, yeah, let's see if we can do that, right? Because that's how creative boundaries get pushed too, right? Like there's location managers out there that they will never say no. And not because they're afraid to say no, but because they love the challenge.
They do.
They love the challenge.
They come up with solutions that aren't sometimes that great. And I've had strange ones where, can you go out and get 12 party hats or whatever it is, you know? And you're like, what? What are you talking about? I'm just making stuff up. But it could be something strange where this has nothing to do. Okay, I'll do it. And then it's like, oh, that didn't work. And they scrap it just like that, whatever. But that was just one solution. I sent 10 people out to come up with one solution that fixed the problem.
100%. And with all the people that work within this collaboration, we put our minds together, and as long as we're not totally doing something that's unsafe or dangerous or, or some crazy amount of money that they just don't have to spend, then why wouldn't you try to do that?
Right.
It might seem daunting or like what a pain in the ass, but when you make those things happen, that's the best feeling. Like, that's such a great feeling. Like, I take pride in getting done everything that I am requested to do. On a tech survey, if the DP says, hey, I want a light on that roof, and it's an abandoned building and there's no indication of who owns that, like, I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm like, I'm gonna find out who owns that. I'm gonna light on that roof.
Yeah.
And when you do it, it's like this ultimate, like, I made that happen.
Yep.
I had a problem and I fixed it. Like,
exactly.
That's my thing. I love to fix problems.
Yeah, I love it too. And that was. Have you worked with Jason on film projects or whatever? Because that's one of the things. You need to have that hat on where you fix problems and put fires out continually.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never done anything with Jason. It's his thing. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want to. And sometimes I think he might think I'm disinterested, but I'm not disinterested. I just am the kind of person that wants to edit things and wants to tell you, to be honest and say, this is what I think, and this is, and I might be wrong about what I think, but I'm always going to give you my opinion.
But you don't want to step on his toes.
And I don't want to step on his toes or have him feel like I don't think it's good enough, or like I'm just
you're
bossy.
criticizing.
It's literally me. I'm just bossy. I can't help myself but to be like, oh, well, what about this? Or,
right.
Well, why would they do that? Or, you know what I mean? So I'm probably a writer's like worst nightmare, really, to be honest, because I'd be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I watch TV shows and Jason's like, would you just stop already? Because I'm like, that bomb's been counting down for 10 seconds and he's driven at least 5 kilometers, and I'm like, and Jason's like, it's a TV show. And I'm like, I know, but it just doesn't make any sense.
But you worked in film for long enough that you're like me. Okay, if the magic is gone and I've lost out of the story, I instantly will pick on location, background, continuity, anything that's screwed up, I will notice it.
And if I'm noticing that, there's bigger problems with that show.
Right.
Than me, you know what I mean? Like, and I say that about film all the time. If there's some sort of we scout an apartment and everything's perfect. It's like south facing. It's 5,000 square feet. They only want $100 for us to use it. Everything's great. But the designer's like, I don't like those window curtains. And you're like, fucking then take them down. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah. No, it's explicit. You can swear.
I've been trying really hard not to.
Oh, no. You're allowed to swear all you want.
So yeah, and then they're like, oh yeah, those window curtains. Yeah, we have to keep looking, and you're like, oh my god, I've just found the holy grail of what, like, everything you're looking for, and those curtains or something
something small.
Yeah, then change the curtains. Like, that's what we're here to do, right? Like, figure that out, make that work. You know what I mean? But there's, scouting's a whole nother beast with that kind of stuff.
Well, so you answer to the art department. You answer to a lot of departments, not just location department, but art department and...
Well, as a scout, you are so it depends on where you come in the process, right? So a lot of times we'll put together packages here and send down to LA for a bid, basically. So, like, they'll call Creative BC, like, producers or studios or however I'm not sure exactly, like, the ins and outs of how it works, but essentially they get word up here that, hey, we would like to film this big movie and we'd like you to put a package together, and then we'll kind of look at the different locations and see, and those shows might even come here and scout some of those locations.
Wow.
So at that point, there'd be sometimes no even location manager. Really, like, there'll be maybe a producer or a production designer, or the two, or a director. But sometimes the directors don't come in for, like, past that point.
They got,
you know what I mean?
Bigger fish to fry. They don't.
Yeah, or sometimes there aren't even directors yet. They
Yeah.
haven't hired a director yet, right?
Right.
They've got their production designer and they've got their producer, and that's
Especially if it's series and television. Then the other thing, each episode is a different director. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
different writers, different director. What?
Kevin Smith put it best. He's like, yeah, I'm just kind of like the queen, you know, I show up. They all do the work because they work on the show the entire season, and it's a rotating director. And he's like, so I just show up, and once in a while they'll look at me and be like, what do you think, Kevin? He'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then I go to A&W and get hamburgers for the crew and tell the first AD just to, you know,
he's the star.
You got this, right? The first AD is like, yeah, I got it. And he's like, okay. And then he goes to A&W and gets the whole crew burgers. It's a great stand-up routine. Silent but Deadly, I think it was. And it was the one that he did just before he had his heart attack. So he walked off stage and had a heart attack. But this set talks about Vancouver and directing, because he does all the comic book stuff, right? So he directs Arrow and The Flash. He does one of those every season. So it was a really good little skit. And he like even names his first AD, you know, from Arrow or whatever it is. And yeah, it was a really good little skit. But it's perfect because that's exactly what an episodic television director is. They just come in, basically prep for 8 days, shoot for 8 days, and leave. And then, you know, we have a new one.
Oh, he's one of my ultimate people I want to get on this in interview.
Oh, that would be amazing.
But he's an
my
indie guy.
Hero.
He's the king.
Love him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so much.
Who doesn't love Kevin Smith?
Yeah. When I was a kid, like Clerks and Mallrats and just like those movies were my life. And they were at that point where, like, you know, when you watch movies like 4 or 5 times in a night, like you just rewind it and then watch it over. Rewind. That's how old I am. I would rewind it.
That you read it from Blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'd be 2 weeks late because, you know, I'd watch it every single day for 2 weeks until my dad would make me take it back. Those were great times when you're a kid and you can do things like that. Now I watch a movie and I'm like, I could care if I ever see it again.
Yeah.
Really, to be honest.
Me too. I'm the same way. And it has to be pretty spectacular for me to watch it again. Sometimes it will.
Yeah. If I feel like I've missed something and, you know, you could go back and maybe like put that little like plug in and then watch again, you know, like that little nugget at the end. I'll do that once in a while. Like when I didn't figure it out before the end of the movie, and then there's like, the twist.
How did I figure that out?
I'll rewatch it and be like, okay, and then you can see all the little things that are meant to, like, those kinds of movies are meant to be watched again, because then you get to find all the little like Easter eggs that they've left that you have no idea because you don't know what's happened, like happens till the end, right?
Oh, that's really, really smart. And I've included that kind of stuff in my writing, where I drop little hints during scenes in the beginning, and then later on when it makes sense, you're like, wait a second, didn't he mention she had blonde hair in the beginning? Oh my God.
Exactly. Like Sixth Sense is like the best example of that, right? Like I could watch that over and over again. You find something different every time.
Exactly.
Every time.
And that's smart writing for sure, because it gets the watcher to be really involved instead of just, I don't know, you can watch all these big superhero movies and just whatever, and if I missed a huge scene where something exploded, no one cares. You're
no
like,
big deal, because they'll do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's not going to blow up in the next one, right? So, yeah I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's horrible. But we're film people, so some people love that. Like,
yeah, and it's funny, too. Like, I, again, not coming from this, like, writing end of it or this kind of wanting to be a filmmaker dream kind of thing, I get into movies in ways that people I work with don't. So we will debate like A Star is Born or Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
I'm like, I love Bohemian Rhapsody. They hated it.
I was brought to tears.
Makers. I thought it was fantastic. I'm like, you know, some people, that's a special case because some people have certain feelings about Queen and are almost historians, and they know that didn't happen before that and blah, 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 and they really pick it apart. But for me, I'm like, I don't care. It's a movie. It's not a documentary. I'm watching these people kind of like recreate something maybe in a light that they in a way that maybe they wished it went down, you know, or whatever, you know what. But I can get lost in that story. And then my other friend's a filmmaker, and he was just like, I hated it. It was like they were just glad to make it and get it over with. And like he said, there was parts with the acting and the camera moves, and I'm like, dude, I didn't see any of that. So I'm thankful for that.
Oh, it's the eyes you have to look at it, because I'm the same way, where I can pick apart, but his acting to me was so good, and I love him as an actor. It drew me in. I was like, mesmerized.
And I love Queen, right?
Yes,
so I thought it was
too.
great. You
me
know,
too.
it did. And again, there's plenty of documentaries out there. You can watch all the bad things that happened during those years, you know, because I think that was part of the thing that people weren't happy about, that it didn't stay true to all like the craziness that was happening.
Same as
but
A Star Is Born.
Touched just fine on the craziness.
A Star Is Born jumped over some stuff from the last, because it's a remake.
It's a remake of a remake of a remake.
Right. Is it the fourth or
the
third? Fourth. That's what my wife was saying.
So there was
fourth.
one from the 30s, and then the one from the 50th. I think that was Judy Garland, who played the Lady Gaga Barbra Streisand character.
Okay.
And then obviously Barbra Streisand in the 70s, and then Lady Gaga now. But I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I cried. I sang. I laughed. Like, I thought it was a great, 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 great movie.
And I heard Bradley Cooper didn't know how to play guitar.
No.
He learned in 8 months.
Yeah.
Before he got up. What? You learned guitar?
That's
commitment,
right?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And then playing in front of like crowd like
100% and 100%. And like, that's everybody.
Dedicated.
Oh, he couldn't play guitar, this, that. And it's like, you know what? He's an actor.
Yeah.
He did a pretty damn good job acting like he was a rock star in that movie. And I thought, I just got lost in it. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
But other people, you know, same thing. Like, they pick it apart. Well, they don't like his voice, and they don't like this.
It wasn't the same as the Barbra Streisand one, because they left out him going to the rehab too many times. They're like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
It's not
and
the same
a lot
movie.
of people have never seen the other movie, right? So, like, they, you know, I was just had this conversation the other day. I hope my boss doesn't hear this. But he was like, oh, yeah, he had read that Lady Gaga, something was really special about the scene with the two of them in the bathtub, and Lady Gaga, you know, really wanted that scene, or they, you know, wrote it because of this. And I'm like, yeah, but, well, no, like, Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson were in the tub.
Yeah,
like,
it's
what?
not new.
And I'm like, yeah, that was like almost like an identical scene where like they're both
so he didn't
makeup.
know.
No. And then it was like, and then of course you grab the Google, and then there's debate over like what scene it was, and I'm like, I didn't mean to start. I see, that's one of those great moments in life where I probably should have just shut up. Just been like, oh yeah, interesting.
When someone's talking about, like, they know what they're talking about, and you're like, wait a second, this is a remake. Like, oh, and then you basically stop them from overstating, because they would look, besides you, they'd look arrogant or like they know stuff, even though they're not, you know.
But it's adorable, just the whole like social media Google situation with movies and stuff, right? Yeah. Like, people think they were there when they made it because you've read all of these things about the filming of, but then it's all like not, you know, it's all publicity, right? So the stories come out that are contradictory and everything, and you're like, well, did this happen or did that happen? And it's all just publicity for the movie to come out. So we're anticipating this movie while they're making it. So we waited for A Star Is Born for like ever.
Oh yeah.
Ever.
It was a long time.
You know, and just people ate it up, and I'm still eating it up because I love Bradley Cooper.
And you watched the Oscars,
Gaga.
obviously?
Of course I did.
And them singing and romantic.
I was like standing in front of my TV, like, oh my God, Jason's like, you have a problem. And then all night I'm like singing the song. Yeah, it was great.
Well, it's in my head too. My wife loves it and sings it all the time, and she wants me to do a duet with her just like they did. And I'm like, oh my God,
I would like to see that.
Now she's gonna make
fantastic.
Me. I'm like, but so funny. To go back to what you're talking about is there is all this stuff that they're talking about how Lady Gaga and Brad were a couple during the filming, and they must be together because the chemistry's there and the way they look at each other, and there must be, even though, you know, and Brad's girlfriend looked on from the audience, and she was so popping mad, and it's all ridiculous. And then when they asked Lady Gaga about it, she says, fooled you, we're acting.
Well, yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, and really, who knows? Like, stranger things have happened in Hollywood.
Well, no. That happens quite a bit. The two, there's a chemistry.
Ultimately, whether it did or didn't is selling movie tickets.
Right.
That's you know what I mean? And I think a lot of this stuff is probably contrived. You know what I mean? A lot of it's, you know, not necessarily this circumstance, but if you think about it, this would make a great example of
publicity stunt, right?
Exactly, right? So, you guys will be seen together, you know, get close all the time, really get it in the magazines so that every magazine's talking about how they're having an affair and you know.
Even if you had Bradley's girlfriend complain in an interview that would just drive people to the box
Even
office.
absolutely, absolutely.
Just
100%.
hey man, you want to just pretend that you
Yeah.
have a problem with him?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I realized for my first time, I can remember the moment that I realized that it was all WWF on a film set.
Oh yeah.
So I was working on a movie called Paycheck with Ben Affleck, and he was dating Jennifer Lopez. They were engaged at the time, and she was filming with Robert Redford in the Okanagan. So she was like flying back and forth and blah 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 blah, and it was just huge at that point. Like they were such a huge, like they called them what, like Benj or something. Like they had a name, one of those like little celebrity. Okay. Put the two names together,
Oh, I see, like Brangelina
exactly,
or
whatever. Like they were, and the thing was, if you can get a picture of them together, it was like $1 million and all this.
Oh, Jesus.
All this paparazzi stuff.
I've dealt
right?
with paparazzi
so I'm like,
crap.
I'm like, okay, paparazzi, okay. Well, I realized that it was all kind of smoke and mirrors the first time when I opened up a magazine and there was a picture, and the picture alluded to her like them being in a big fight or something like that. I was standing beside the stills photographer for the production when she took that picture. Like I was standing there because it was just like, because the stills photographer is always on set. They're always around. They're always taking pictures. Sometimes there's photo shoots where, they have to do things for, pictures on a mantle or whatever, publicity shoots or whatever, but they're always around.
Or wardrobe.
And they're always taking pictures.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God, that's like publicity. So they put it, because I was like, that's not some paparazzi that took that picture, for sure.
It was the production that put it
together. And I went like, whoa. So probably not like, I don't know how it works, to be honest, but I have this like theory where I'm like, okay, so the publicist, that's what happens. So they get stories. Here's some pictures. They get stories. They drum up the movie that's being made. It's not even out yet, so that you're excited to go and see that. Or not necessarily even the movie, but the actors. Right.
So all the eyes are on them because of something else.
Yeah, it was crazy that time. It was a summer, and there was a lot of movies being made, and like these were two big stars at the time filming here, and paparazzi were just like everywhere. So yeah, like I don't know. They have to obviously have like tabloid magazines that buy pictures and stuff like that, but the People magazines and all that kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure like that's just straight.
Well, I asked a paparazzi guy because I worked on Supernatural for 2 years, and that they always had paparazzi all the time. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'd be on paparazzi patrol. Yeah, I literally would have to stand in front of them with an umbrella. Yeah, and block their view. And if they got a shot of the side of a face through these trees or whatever that was worth so much money, that's what he told me. It depends on how clear the shot is and all this stuff. Because I'm asking him, why are you trying to take...
Yeah.
He's just by the happy chance. If I happen to get that picture, it could be worth $5,000. It could be worth $10,000. It could be worth $1,000. But depending on who's willing to buy it and whatnot. But I'm like, this life's
it's a weird... Yeah, it's a real weird little offshoot of... what we do, you know what I mean? Like that's just like a whole other monster, the paparazzi thing.
And it's different than Britain. Britain is like major paparazzi.
Yeah, or I think even LA too, right? Like we don't have. There's a couple of guys really, and then again, once in a while, when something big is happening here, then they'll be like
they'll travel
it's not like
here.
TMZ has a bus here or anything like that, but that might be a great idea.
Well, I bet you TMZ has moved here because right now we're approaching 40 productions right now.
Oh, at least.
It's and that's not to mention the independence and the music videos and commercials. It's crazy. But anyway, we're way off topic. Okay, so Da Vinci's
just so
Inquest.
Easy to talk to you, Mike.
I know. That's what. Well, that was my whole point of the show too. Bringing people I know that I know I can get along with well and talk to, and just like it's nothing. And having our job, we had to deal with people a lot, so it was easy. Yeah. It was. I have the ability, and I'm sure you do too, to walk into any store and say, "Hey, can I use your parking?"
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was told that's a skill. And I'm like, really? Because I think it's natural to me. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think that I'm a natural salesman. Like I come from a long line of used car salesmen on my mom's side. Yeah. But yeah, I sell myself for sure. Like it's a perfect example when I go in and I talk to people. I'm not, yes, I'm representing the production I'm with, but I am representing myself, and I make sure that I'm stand behind everything that I say, and that if there's anything that happens, which it does happen once in a while, like things that weren't supposed to happen, or things that, maybe we change our location, we end up not filming there, and you have to go back and change the deal or whatever.
Right.
I want those people to know that I am responsible for what's going to happen, and they can get a hold of me at any time for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, I did prep for a couple years too, and same thing where you deal with on a first name basis and some sort of rapport with all these people in that neighborhood, in that area. Wherever we're filming, I'm responsible for all the parking spots. Everybody, if someone's got a problem us filming and getting in their way of their driveway, say, I will talk to them. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I feel the same way, and I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that really helps to do my job on a daily basis. Like, I'm not afraid to talk to people. I really enjoy talking to people. I am obviously not an introvert.
And this is probably this is your first podcast. This is probably the first of a lot.
Yeah, I'm super nervous. So I'm sure.
Oh, you should never be nervous. You're natural.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So Da Vinci's Inquest, you were on that and you were PAing, and then what was after that?
Well, there was just years of kind of movies after that. So we did Paycheck, and the scary movies were here. So with Anna Faris. So I think we did 2 or 3 of those, and then
you stuck with the same crew?
No, I was working for different people. So I did Paycheck with Fleming Lund was the assistant location manager at that time, and Bruce Brownstein, and then I did the scary movies with Jeff Tioli and Renee Bella, who I had worked with on Da Vinci's. Okay. And then Ken Brooker and Kendry Upton were doing Hot Rod. I think Andy Samberg was in it. It was years ago. It was there was a bunch of SNL dudes, so it was kind of
everyone was getting their movie after Will Ferrell and all these people.
There was a couple of years where it was I didn't do any TV. It was all movies. And the industry kind of flowed like that for a couple of years. It would ebb and flow. So it would be super, super feature heavy. So you couldn't really do many series here because there was no studio space, right? So the big shows would come in and take all this studio space. And then they would kind of fade out a little bit, right? So we'd have all this stuff happening, and then they'd start to go, and then TV shows would come in, and there'd be a couple years of TV shows. So there was this chunk after Da Vinci's where it was a lot of big budget features, and then so the tail end of that would have been with Ken Brooker on Little Man and White Chicks. So that was the
I remember White
brothers.
Chicks.
Yeah. That was they're fun.
Yeah, I bet.
And then TV came back in. So then I did Masters of Horror, the first season of Masters of Horror.
Cool, nice.
Oh, that was awesome.
It was fun, I bet.
Yeah, that was. I was keep PAing on set, but at that point, I had been working in the office for other location managers, coming in to run checks and stuff. And that's in those days. That's when you learned how to tell. Because there was this weird area where there was no trainee program. So I would go in and work as a PA, but I'd be doing towel work.
Oh, so there was no towels?
Yeah. It was. There was a really weird time where towels weren't. You did not have to have a towel.
What about prep ALMs too?
There was exactly. There was a time when there was no prep ALMs, but I shouldn't say unfortunately, but. Fortunately, people have started to understand that there's just more and more put on the locations department's plate, that it can't be done without certain people. And what was happening for years and years is these people were being paid as PAs. I got paid I've done what I do now for 10 years. And
you were making $150 back in the day, right?
And no matter what I'm called or what I'm being PA'd, I always do the same thing. I have my own set of skills, I guess, that I bring to a television series or a movie, which is before it was called prep ALMing. You know what I mean? That's what it was. And there's
you were just a dynamic key PA before,
or would be called a scout, or would be, you know what I mean? It depended on the budget and what they, there's no money for prep ALM. There's no money. But the job still needs to get done. So I would have no problem, and I still have no problem with my title. Like I'm a production assistant.
Yeah, I have no
you know what I
problem
mean?
with it
People
either.
are like,
I'm proud.
oh, and what do you do? Because I'll walk into like the boardroom and talk to the executive producer or whatever, and people are like, well, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a PA, and just the look on their face is like, what do you mean you're a PA? And I'm like, well, I'm like the locations office PA essentially. I get key PA rate.
Right.
So I'm on like the list on whatever show is key PA, but I just don't work on set anymore. Right. So, but for me, it's balances everything.
Oh yeah,
out.
and that's the other thing is not having that fear. You can walk up to executive producer.
Yeah.
I can walk up to anybody and be like, okay, this needs to be done. Well, who are you? What's your job? What does it matter?
It doesn't
This needs
matter,
to be done.
yeah.
Move your car.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly. I always got a kick out of like the title and who was ahead of who on a call sheet and all that kind of stuff, and it blows my mind. Like, and even when I am given the credit of a prep ALM or whatever, I tell people I'm in the locations department. Like, that's when people ask me what I do. I'm like, I'm in the locations department because I do lots of things. I wear many, many hats from the beginning to an end of a TV series. I could be everything but a location manager. I could start scouting at the beginning and be prep ALMing, be PAing, like right from the beginning to the end of a show. But you have to be able to, especially in the locations office, do anything at any time, which is,
Oh yeah.
it doesn't really matter what they call you. Like, the location manager could be doing things that technically an ALM would be ALM duties or vice versa. It doesn't matter. You just get the job done.
Yeah, and I've had times where I've worked with really good, efficient people that are just like, oh my God, I'm trying to find work. And then I've worked with people who pawn all of their job on me. Oh, I delegate everything, and now you are the ALM and do everything, even though you're getting paid PA, and I'm going to sit in my office, and I'm going to play solitaire or whatever.
Oh, you've met those people too?
Yeah. So, but that's across the board with any job. I don't think it's just film.
I totally agree. And I think that I've been really fortunate to work for so many different people over the years that I've really learned who I want to be like and who I maybe don't. Not that I don't want to be like, but I won't take certain traits of theirs and make them my own. You know what I mean? But I've been able to kind of, take all the things I like about people and kind of work those into what I do on a daily, and recognizing that those are the kind of people I want to work with. So it gets to a certain point when the other people call and you can politely decline.
Oh yeah, well that's the other thing is I've had times where I've looked right in the eye of someone who's given me some ridiculous thing, and you can tell it's either for vengeance, like they're like, well, no, you stay here even though everything's gone, stay here for 3 more hours because I'm your boss and you do what I say,
and they own you for 15 hours.
And I look in their eye and I go, they're hurting for PAs, and I'm one dynamic PA, so I can go to another show. You want to lose me? I'll walk right now. That's horrible to say.
No, but it's true. And the people that treat you well, you will go above and beyond.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I'll stay. No worries. I got
I'll
you.
stay 10 hours.
Exactly. Yep. Because the other 10 times a week, they're like, hey, don't worry about it. Just get out of here. You know what I mean? You're all good. But it's the people that want to control you. And that, I mean, listen, there's plenty of them in this industry like that. This is a great this
boss.
industry is like, like the microcosm of the world, right? You have like the dictators and you have the democratic republics, and you have all these different kind of teams that work together in different ways, and you just realize, okay, these are the kind of people that I want to jive with, and the other people are like, they can do their own thing, but I don't want to work like that.
Yeah, you have to be able to work together usually when it comes down, because I wrote in the book about how it's all about timing, and it comes to all these departments working together and coming together. And how many shows I've been on, like the people from electrics don't know the guys from set deck, don't know the guys from whatever construction. And you're like, how do you know? You've worked with this guy for 5 years. You don't know his name? Oh yeah, I think it's Greg or something. I don't know. And you're like,
but the locations department kind of is the glue between all those people, because it's our job to know who all those people are. It's literally our job to know all the different players and be able to put them together when needed to be put together. You know what I mean? Like, it's my pride to do a tech survey lunch. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love doing tech surveys. People hate it. They think I'm crazy. And I'm like, not only does this take me back to when I was a kid and working in restaurants and loved it, and what a stress. Like, you think that it's stressful working in a restaurant until you do something like this, right? Where you're on all the time. At least at a restaurant, you can have a really crappy guest or whatever, but you leave, they leave, and you leave, and you never have to see them again, hopefully. You know what I mean? Where this, you have to just do it every single day, and you have to keep it all together, right? So I always think it's fun to do tech survey lunch because I make sure that I like know everybody's name and what they ordered and everything, and it's really, really important for me because that's where I get to learn everybody's personalities, like all the department heads. And that's where I get to learn like who all the department heads are and what kind of people they are. And you can really tell something from people when they're all like when somebody's at a restaurant. You can learn a lot from people.
How they treat people.
How they treat people, how they ask for things. And you go, okay, so I know. A mess. Yeah, so I know how I'm going to navigate these different personalities for the rest of the show from the tech survey lunch.
And that's good. That's smart.
Yeah, it's my trick. It really, really is my trick.
Wow. For me, being on set and watching different people do the same sort of thing, same idea. You watch a person for a long time as a PA. You're just there. You're just, I don't know, watching a door or whatever. Yeah. And you watch the first AD on a new show. This is usually when it's a brand new show because I don't have the luxury of going on tech survey right away kind of thing for me. Yeah. But for PAs, usually they will know a lot of the stuff that's going on set. What time will we wrap tonight? Yeah. PAs will know. When are we moving? You know, most of the stuff is so-and-so here today, you know, or whatever. But if you ask a grip or you ask, and they're like, I don't know.
No, we're the information center.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that is exactly what we're meant to do. You know, like I remember when I was younger on set, like, we'd have a meeting at the beginning of the day and we'd be told like where the washrooms are, where Crafty's going to be, where all this kind of stuff is, because essentially it's easier for a PA to be standing at these different places and people come up and they're like this beacon of light, like, oh, they'll know, they've got a vest on. Yeah. You know, and then that's why like the answer, like I was saying earlier, the answer's never no, because you get questions all the time from people. Maybe you're not anybody that should be asked these questions, but you always say, oh, hold on 1 second, and then you find out the answer to that question, right? But I think it's really, really important the locations place on a set, because they literally, like I said before, are the glue. Like they know all those things, they know all those people. You're looking for somebody, they'll know where they are. The good ones. Yeah, that's true.
That's one of the rules in my book too, is pay attention. Yeah. Pay attention when someone says, oh, I don't know, and I'm like, it's over there, or it's like, it's 3:00, they're going to be here, or whatever, because I was paying attention when they said it. Yeah. And you were like, oh yeah, when's lunch, and not paying attention. Yeah. That's something you learn over time though. Yeah. Experience has dictated a lot of my decisions. Me too. Over the years, for sure. Like, because what we said at the beginning, once you do something once, you either do it the right way or you do it the wrong way, and then you learn and you don't do it again if that was the wrong way, or you do it exactly like you did the first time every single time. And the shame of being called an idiot. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah. If you have shame, like, oh shit, I should have locked that door, or whatever it is, and in me, it's one of the things, I'll never do that again. I'll always double check the door. But some people just, oh, I didn't lock the door. Yeah, there's no sense of urgency with people. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Some people, yeah. I definitely lack that no sense of urgency gene. Me too. It's all urgent right now. Yeah. Yeah. So after all of the feature films, then you went back to television. Back to TV, and then it just kind of ebbed and flowed for a couple of years. You know, we'd do a TV series and then do a movie, and then I started working with Wendy Williams, who's a production manager. So Wendy's great. Yeah. So Katu Kearney was my location manager at the time. Katu is amazing. Yeah, and we did a movie called Beth Cooper, and then I PA'd on that. Did you? I was a pal in the office. That was one of my first. Yeah. And then we did Tooth Fairy, and that was my first full upgrade to ALM on set. Okay. And then we did Percy Jackson, and I was a prep ALM on Percy Jackson, and that's where I met Jason. And Freddie came like the following year. So that's when I started to work more in television. So it's been pretty much since Freddie was born. Like, I've done a couple movies here and there. And helped fill in on things, but the majority of what I've been doing has been NBC television. So
Thank
how
you,
did you
NBC.
meet? Yeah, no shit. NBC is like, and now it's all Warner Brothers here, right?
There's a lot, yeah. So, and CW.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Netflix. Don't forget Netflix.
Yeah, that's taking over.
That's
what I hear.
crazy. Yeah, that has changed a lot of how things get done. I like it.
Oh yeah, and those streaming sites now is going to be the new TV. It's taking over television.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, it makes sense because people, it's not just our industry. People everywhere are working more and at home less and want to be able to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it, not have to watch it Wednesday night at 9:00 or whatever, right?
Isn't it funny that it all turned into appeasing the people who make film? Because because really, I will go and I'll binge on Saturday, and that's the only time I have to watch TV. So I'll watch 5 episodes.
Yeah, totally.
And then you go back. Oh yeah, you can do the whole week.
Totally. Well, that's why I love my PVR.
Yeah.
And I am addicted to trash tabloid television, so I watch all of the Housewives and the Vanderpump Rules and things like that. So Jason makes fun of me, but that's what I'll do. Like every couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, leave me alone. I'm in my room, and I watch it all. And it's funny because that's the kind of stuff that I like to watch, but it's completely different from anything that I would ever work on.
Right. It's fun. I actually met someone from the Vancouver Housewives.
Oh, really?
Who was a camera guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he told me some inside stuff about that because I've only ever done episodic or movies. I've never actually done a reality show. And how do you do that? Like what,
What do you do with such few people?
Well, he said a lot of times they'll have a really loose storyline for that episode.
Yeah.
And there'll be specific things that they want them to say as far as producers, but it doesn't have to be exactly word for word. You just got to be around that.
Yeah.
That woman is a bitch or that whatever.
Yeah.
I hate this or whatever, especially if the character, because let's get this straight. Most reality, I'd say all, but my wife is a skeptic, but most reality, I think, is scripted. Is not real.
I think generally speaking, it's funny though because of the old adage, you can't write this, right? So I think that was the idea when it first started because there were these crazy people. I think that the Osbournes were the first family to do it. But before the Osbournes was like the Paris Hiltons and
oh, that's right, yeah.
You know what I mean? And their lives
Survivor
were so even if you scripted it, just the fact that these girls were so rich and so out of touch with reality. Even if you did script it, it would still be reality because they've never, going to a pig farm or going right. So I think that originally it was probably more real. But then you get to the point where you're like, how many different housewives are there? And in how many different cities? Like, there's got to be different storylines, and there's got to be
successful in those 23 other cities. What about our city?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
God.
But I still enjoy it. I can't help myself.
Yeah, no,
I live
some
vicariously through them and their Coach bags and their fancy cars.
Some people love it. It depends. Everyone's entertained by different stuff, and who is to anybody? That's what I don't like when people judge other people for what they liked, what entertains them. Well, you don't not entertain what I'm entertained by. Well, then,
exactly. Can you imagine? Well, we wouldn't be here right now if everybody enjoyed the same thing all the time.
Yeah,
there's just no way. There'd be no industry like it is because it would all have to be the same. So there'd be no reason to make more of it.
Oh, and there's so much material now and so many shows and stuff that it's catering to everybody.
Yeah.
It seems to be.
Yeah.
Spreading and spreading and spreading.
Yeah.
But, I talked to someone who is doing a plus-size model thing, and they did a documentary on that.
Fantastic.
And they traveled around the world to do it, and that was their first real attempt at a feature film documentary kind of thing. And the reason I bring that up, it was just appealing to that demographic. That's huge.
Yes.
And if you appeal to one demographic, because there's no other documentary movie on, like other movies have talked about it, but there's nothing dedicated just to that storyline or just to that subject matter.
Yeah.
And when you do, you open up that demographic that everyone goes, my sister was a plus size model, so I kind of knew about the world. But it was one of those things where I was mesmerized that it's just another thing.
Yeah. That's why I love documentaries and Netflix and all the streaming services, because there's documentaries like you would never ever be exposed to if those didn't exist.
Well, yeah.
You know, because I'm not going to go to the library and go look for documentaries at the library. Or, you know, there's only so many, you know, POV is great, right? Point of view at PBS or CBC or CBS or whoever does it. That was the first time I ever saw the Miracle. You seen that new movie with Steve Carell? And he plays a gentleman who had a brain injury, and it's a true story. And the neighbor would see him like walking this toy army jeep down the road all the time. And finally the neighbor was like, what are you doing? And he led him into this world that this man had created with Barbie dolls and G.I. Joes and stuff. And this entire world, Steve Carell, right? So that was actually a documentary. And I was like obsessed with that documentary. And it was on POV. Yeah, it's really fantastic. But if it weren't for, you know, just that one show, which I think POV is only on like once a week or whatever, or PBS and stuff like that where you see documentaries, if it weren't for these streaming services, like that's a whole new genre that's really, I feel, really been opened up. Right? Because anybody literally can take a camera and go and film it.
Oh, look at
And
Vice.
if you're a filmmaker, let me suggest, if you're a filmmaker, get a camera, go make a movie.
Yeah.
Don't become a PA. Don't become, you know what I mean? Like that's, you know, if you are a filmmaker, go and make a movie. And now you can.
Oh, yeah, that's what Vice was. I think that
Vice,
that was one of those ones
Vice.
where documentary after documentary, they just picked up a camera, went, talked to the people, went to really weird places. They weren't NBC journalists or like heavy duty. They were guys who were, okay, we'll go in here and talk about it.
Yeah. I think that would be really interesting. That's something I've never done in film. I've never worked on a documentary or anything even kind of close to that, you know, but I would love to. I think that would be really, really interesting. Like those, I think, are the stories that I would like to be more involved in telling. You know, if I were to, you know, tell you I had a dream, I think that at this point would be that, to be more involved with that kind of stuff.
You know what documentary is not made yet?
Which
Maybe
one?
I should tell you off the air.
Oh, yeah. Trademark.
Because someone will make it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's something that you're a genius in and you know, and there's no movie on that.
Fantastic.
I don't know of any.
Have your people call my people.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the documentary thing too.
Yeah.
It really fills you in on a lot of stuff. And before, when I was a kid, I'm a little bit older than you, but when I was a kid, it was all encyclopedias. Go look it up. Oh, you want to know about that? Well, the library.
Go to the library.
Has books. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're like, I'm not, whatever.
That's why I just barely graduated high school.
Yeah.
I swear that school would be a breeze now with Google. I mean, I say that now, but I'm not in school. But it feels like it would be.
Oh, yeah. But I still ask questions. Oh, how come, what's this person's name or whatever? They're like, do you have Google on your phone in your pocket? Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
I love Google. I can't help myself. But I'm nosy. Like, that's how I am. I want to know things. And my husband often calls that argumentative, but I disagree.
That's so funny, eh? You're like, no, it was actually 1859? Yeah.
I know. It's horrible, but I do. Like, I have this obsession of knowing. So I might think that something happened this way and somebody says no. I'm like instantly Googling that. Not because I necessarily want to prove that person wrong, but because then I need to know. I just need to know what happened. What year was it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's probably information that I will never retain, but I have this obsession to just know things.
So this helped you out your life out because
Absolutely.
Is this when you were before the internet, before Google?
I worked in film before there were smartphones. I worked in film before maps were made on computers. So an ALM would have their little drawing kit and would hand draw maps. And I remember when there would be a payphone, so the closest payphones would be marked on the map, and there would be a PA that would stand at that payphone with a fanny pack full of quarters, and that was production payphone for the day. That I only saw that happen I only ever saw that one happen like once or twice. Wow. But that was at the point when cell phones, like people had cell phones, but like my cell phone bill was like $600 a month when I first started in film.
$25 a minute.
Like insanity, right? And now you couldn't find a payphone if your life depended on it. Now I see a payphone, I'm like, oh, take a picture.
So there's one in the library.
Is there? Maybe I'll go take a selfie later.
And then I think there's probably one at a bus station or somewhere, or maybe the airport. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, it was crazy. What technology has done for the film industry is, and in such a small time frame, right? Again, I've only been doing but like going on 18 years, and it is a completely different beast than it was at the beginning. People had to make decisions. People had to, there wasn't like, iChat where everybody was just like real time at the office talking to people on set and everything. Like, no, you had to stop. You had to make a phone call. You had to wait for somebody to get to the message, and then you had to get that person to make the decision, then call you back.
I have to go down to set.
Yeah.
That happened too, probably. I'd go down and tell them because it's quicker than, for me to drive and take the half-hour drive, it's better than...
Yeah. There used to be a set cell. The second AD would carry around a set cell.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how much that bill was.
Oh, insane. I've seen a couple of different ones, phone bills from different LMs and ALMs over the years or whatever, and it's insane.
It's
some
crazy.
of this is before. Now it's all inclusive and it's gotten cheaper and cheaper, but I've seen $500-800 bills and for 1 week, and you're like, $800 for 1 week?
Insane. Well, because you would have to pay for like each text message and each incoming text message. And when you're young and you don't have great credit, you're on like whatever plan they tell you can have. So, but I'm really, really glad that I don't have to A, deal with those cell phone bills anymore, but B, don't have to live in what I feel is like the dark ages of film before the iPhone. Like, you think that your day-to-day life would be hard, but really think about doing the job of an ALM without their mail readily available to them, their maps readily available, their what have you. Like, I don't know what happened if we just lost smartphones.
Oh, I know. Like taking pictures of different things. How much room and parking? Take a picture. Send it to me right now. And then, Yeah. But you are like, this is something you've done for a long time. So you must have some really good advice for people who are just starting out as a PA or starting into the location business, because there's a lot of things that people don't know. I know you need a car. You need a smartphone. Mm-hmm. Those are two requirements for sure.
Yeah.
And then, of course, be on time, pay attention, that kind of thing.
Yeah, common sense is a big, big thing for me.
Yeah, if someone makes doesn't pay attention and makes some sort of silly error.
Yeah. You said it earlier, and I think it really hit the head, but just pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening. Don't ever be caught, like, on your phone with your back to set and somebody walks through your shot or your lockup because you just simply weren't paying attention. Just there's so much happening on a film set at any given time. There's really, I don't feel any need to even have your phone in your hand as a PA on set when you're starting.
Yes, if you're on set, okay, if you're watching Crew Park or you're
fair
watching
enough.
Parking and not anything to do with set, that's one thing.
Fair enough, yeah.
But when you're actually near where they're actually filming, do not have your phone up.
Yeah, absolutely. God, it feels so long ago. But I got some really great advice from my parents, for sure. And that was to always be prepared. So, I had a backpack with a sweatshirt and, light rain gear if it wasn't totally raining outside, but you never know what's going to happen. Snacks and water and stuff like that, because, right or wrong, you might get left somewhere for 15 hours, and unfortunately nobody wants that to happen, but it happens because there's so many moving parts any given day that sometimes people just kind of get forgotten about a little bit.
I forgot about Kohl.
Yeah, it happens, and it's not on purpose. It's not like that, or that's a normal thing, but once in a while it happens. So you should just be prepared, because once you're on set, once you leave Crew Park, you're not coming back there till the end of the day. Yeah. And you don't want to be the person that's asked to go to you. Can I go to my car? Can I, like, I think, so that would probably be second, second big thing that I would say is that you want to kind of go unnoticed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, when you're told to do something, do it. Don't be on your walkie, like, constantly asking for, well, when's this happening, or when's lunch, or what, you know what I mean? You just kind of go,
when are we going home?
Yeah, never, ever, ever ask when you're going home. Ever.
I learned that right away.
Yeah. But I think it's really important just to anticipate that you are going to be gone for 15 hours, right? So
or
you
more.
Need to be prepared.
Yeah.
And it's nobody else's fault but your own if you're not prepared. So you kind of don't want to be that person that's always like the needy person, right? Because there's a lot of stuff going on, and the last thing a key PA or an ALM needs to worry about is like, oh my God, Susie is like calling again for whatever. You never want to be Susie. You always want to be the person that they go, oh, hey, how's so-and-so doing? Oh yeah, really good. Yeah, she's super self-sufficient. They're like, oh yeah, let's bring her back.
Yep. That's what I learned right away. And it was one of those things I knew that if they didn't have to deal with me and I can handle all that stuff, Mike's on it.
Totally.
No, Mike's there. It's not a problem. Well, yeah, but the water wasn't working, and no, what Mike will take care of it. He'll call me if there's a problem, but yeah, he'll take care of it. And having that kind of faith in someone, that's how you get called back.
Yeah, and you become an asset. You have now become an
asset. Now I got Mike on my team. Now I got Kohl on my team. Okay.
Exactly.
It's covered.
And even if you're just that dude that's watching parking, but you're not just sitting in your car on your phone, you're actively doing a job.
Right.
Because always what would happen to me is I'd be told to like stand and watch parking. And the one time the whole day that I sit down, the location manager drives up.
Yeah.
Right? And it always happens. So, and that's what they'll remember. So like, that's the thing that, about everything being urgent for me. At any given time, I could be ready to make a first impression. And am I going to be sitting in my car on my phone, not paying attention to what I'm doing? Or am I going to be like out of my car, talking to people, just all around being a positive representation of the film industry?
They don't have to go looking for you.
They don't have to go looking for you. You know what I mean? And just whenever they walk by, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And people go, oh yeah, that guy's always doing hey, we should bring him back. He's always doing what he's supposed to be doing. And that might not be somebody putting out fires, but they're still doing a great job and are in turn an asset to the team, because you don't have to worry about what they're doing. So it's the people that you're constantly worrying about, like, oh, she went to go get her rain gear. Oh, and she didn't come back for 45 minutes. Oh, okay. Oh, she was in a shuttle. Oh, okay. Oh, so it was the shuttle drivers. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, and now she has to go to the washroom. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that person that you're just like, oh.
You're like, damn it.
Maybe they could just do an 8-hour.
Yeah. And I've had, but it's so busy in Vancouver.
Yeah.
You have no choice. You have 3 people who are really, really dynamic, know what they're doing, and then you have 8 that are heads up their at. Well, not everybody, but you know what I mean? Like, don't know. Yeah,
for sure. I think that easily, it's like that, I can't remember what, 20% of the people basically carry 80% of the people's weight.
Yeah,
generally speaking.
That makes sense.
It's like you should Google it, because it's like a thing, 20-80 or whatever. But they put it to like lots of different scenarios, right? Like 20% of the people will eat 80% of the buffet or whatever. But that's what it's like, I think, on a film set. 20% of the people are actively involved in what's happening, and the other 80% are like,
this is a job.
Yeah, okay. Well, or don't they only know what they're doing.
Right.
20% of the people know what everybody is doing and have like the big picture. And 80% of the people are just doing what they're meant to do.
Or what they're told to do, because that's what happens in films. Like, well, I was just told to do this. I got to move this book over here, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, but you just move the wire. No. They asked me to move the book. I'm not.
Yeah.
You're
like, 100%.
You're right there. What the hell?
Yeah. So I have to call another department to do that? Okay, great.
Thanks.
Great.
Yeah.
And I mean, fair enough. Like, there's certain situations where, union members don't do other union members' jobs. So that's fair. And that's something, as a new PA, you should get to know real quick. Who does what? So
don't touch gear unless you're asked to.
Don't touch other people's gear. You may ask if they would like a hand. You will generally hear no. Unless it's like, set deck is kind of cool, you know, when you're prepping and stuff. I think they're more willing to accept a hand. But the techs on set, you just don't touch their gear unless you've asked or they've asked you to. And don't just expect that everybody's going to be super friendly and nice to you when you do something you shouldn't have done. You know what I mean? So that's where paying attention, you know, it all kind of rolls together, right?
Oh, and don't always expect a pat on the back for doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know what? That's life. We do lots of things in life. Like, oh, I turned left and I didn't hit anybody. It's like, pat on my back. Yeah. No, I just turned left as I was driving my car. That's kind of what work at a film set is like. You know, if you're expecting to get, you know, a pat on the back every time you know, pick up a butt sweep when you weren't asked to or whatever, you know, that's just do your job. Yeah. And do it to the best of your ability. And that is, and you will be recognized for it, right? It's that instant gratification thing, right? It might take an entire show and a location manager sits down with the E11 and says, so let's talk about your PAs. Who, you know, who's the cream of the crop? Who should we maybe bring into the office? Who, right? All those little things add up for sure. It's, and don't think that they're not watching because they're always
I know they are
paying attention, you know, because people that have risen to the top, they pay attention. So they know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. And how many times have the LM or the ALM talked to the transport guy and said, the captain, and he says, oh, that Mike guy was out here butt sweeping and like whatever. And then it just goes, oh, he was here doing that. He's like, yeah, he cleaned it. Like, I've never had such a clean area or whatever. Yeah. And that is remembered. And then right from then on, then it's like, oh, we need a van driver. Well, for me.
Yeah, exactly.
We need an office person. We need something.
Exactly. Things do not go unnoticed. But if you know who everybody is on a film set, so there's certain things that are a gimme. Like if you see a guy with a tool belt and he has clothes pegs on it, that's an electrician. you know, if you see a guy that has pony clips and tapes and, you know, things like that, that's a grip.
Rolls of tape,
you know, right? You without being told, you have to be able to kind of pick up these little things. And the more you do it, the quicker it is. But it's very important to know who they are and what they do, because you may need their assistance with something and you know who to go to, or somebody says, hey, can you talk to the electrics about blah blah blah. You don't want to be like, oh, which ones are they? You know what I mean? You want to be able to go, oh, okay, there's, you know, lights and seats, you know, whatever's over there, and there's a guy with the clothes peg on his belt. That's who I need to talk to.
Well, here the other thing I wanted to mention was pretty well every production I've been on has usually tape on their walkie and usually has their department on it. So it'll say LX or it'll say props or it'll say something like that. And that's a lot of times where I would look, because you don't know in props or different things. You don't know who's who a lot of times. And you walk up and you say, oh, and you see someone with walkie, you say, hey, someone asked me to talk to props about this. And usually they'll help you right away. They'll say, oh, you need to talk to Debbie or whoever. Yeah. And they'll put you in touch. Yeah, and don't be afraid to introduce yourself. Right. So instantly, when you walk up to someone, don't just walk up to somebody and look like a deer in the headlights. Walk up and say, hi, my name's so-and-so. I'm in the locations department. I've been asked to look for blah, blah, blah. Would you be able to help me with that? And instantly, you're going to get a better reaction than coming up and being like, hey, can you do this? Or, you know, without... you know, you want to, this industry is all about relationships, and that's how you start a relationship, by introducing yourself to somebody else, learning people's names. So once you do that, you're going to know for the rest of the show that guy, and if you need to talk to that department, you're like, that's my guy. Right. You know what I mean? So always being like, put yourself out there. Exactly. I think that's ultimately what I'm saying, is put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to say, hi, this is who I am. Some people might remember that and be like, oh yeah, that kid, he was really personable. Exactly. You know? As soon as you have that, it's almost like dealing with the regular public in a sense. When you're dealing with someone, especially when you're brand new on a show, if you don't know their name and you don't know who it is, the props person, or electrics or whatever, and your boss says, hey, talk to them. It's a lot easier if you get to know them, because when you make that introduction right away, then it's always Bob. Then it's always Debbie. Absolutely. And when you see them again, you're saying, hey, Debbie, thank you for doing that. And then boom, that cements, oh, I remember Mike's name now.
Yep.
And that's relationship. And then there you go.
Yep. And that's what this is all built on, is relationships, because how you'll get your next job is from the PA that you sat in a parking lot with for 15 hours. He got a call for a show the next day and they said they needed someone else. So he's like, oh yeah, I know this guy from this parking lot that that is this industry. It's all about relationships. That's how you get your next show. That's how you stay on a show. Maybe you just are called in as a day call, but you have an opportunity that day to become a show call.
Yes,
to
every
be asked
day
back
you
every
work.
single day, right? And if they have a day where they can't bring you back, they're like, oh man, I really like that kid. So so-and-so was looking for PAs. Call him, give him his number, because that was, I like that kid and I want him to make sure that he gets work.
Yeah.
So it's all about relationships, and you can make or break yourself that first day on set. You know what I mean? You don't want to come off as... it can be hard because a lot of times your first couple days on set are really stressful. Like, you don't know anybody, you feel out of place, you feel like everybody knows each other, but you don't know them. And that can be really hard, but it can also come off in such a way that is standoffish.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Even though you're feeling that way, really try to introduce yourself to everybody, come out of your shell, talk to people, ask questions. Because that's how you're gonna learn, and that's how you're gonna have a good experience. You know what I mean?
How many times do I when I introduce myself and do exactly what you said and took that advice in different things where I remember their name forever. Totally. I remember your name forever.
Yeah,
I will always know Kohl Jones. I always will, because did we ever work together?
I think briefly when you were a van driver
on Arrow.
No, I can't remember. Well, you know what? It could have been even just when I was working
years,
at Parallel and you coming in. Because I worked at Parallel on and off when I was like pregnant and stuff like that with Freddie.
That might have been it.
I met a lot of people during that time for sure.
Oh yeah, and then when I asked Jason or whatever, and when it was Parallel before Whites or whatever, they're like, "Oh, can you start Monday?" Because they knew right away. They're like, "Oh yeah, if I hire this guy, he's going to come in here."
Yeah.
And
he knows the equipment, he knows the job, he knows what needs to be done, he can circumvent the personalities he's going to meet at 7 o'clock in the morning when he's dropping off gear.
And not a big deal. Because if you're a van driver or just in locations, that job is like, it's not easy, but it's not near as arduous as in long and
you get to
physically brutal.
Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, well, we've been talking for a couple hours now. It just flies right by.
It really does. Thank you again so much for having me. I know we got off topic. That's kind of my...
No. I just
fault.
enjoy talking about the subject because it's something that intrigues me and is my passion. And I wish I'd found it earlier in life. But I'm in love with that. I just doing all my own little independent jobs and like filming or whatever, that was just learn from being on set and doing the job as in locations and background. I did background as well.
Really?
That's how I started, and it gave me the chance to be on set and sit there and watch the EDs, watch the director, watch what people do and why they do it and how they set it up and everything, and it really brought a lot around. And hey, if Jason ever does make a feature, he needs to hire you because you're not only right on the money.
I'll
you
only
won't have
accept
to worry.
Executive producer credit. I'm sorry.
I want people to massage my feet while I eat steak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. And what show are you on again, sorry?
I just finished. Yesterday was my last day on a TV series called The In-Between.
Okay.
Again, for NBC. I was saying earlier I work a lot for NBC, so I did Girlfriend's Guide, The Arrangement, and Traveler. So like over the past few years, it's been a lot of TV shows. So we just finished this last one for NBC, and I'm glad it's over.
And what do you have? Do you have anything lined up?
We're doing the Psych movie.
Oh, that's right. I worked on Psych.
Yeah. So we did one a couple summers ago. I mean, it hasn't been filmed here for like over 10 years, and it actually never aired here. It aired down in the States.
Oh, yeah, the USA Network.
Yeah, but there's a huge cult following here. So when we did the TV movie a couple of years ago, people would show up with their box sets, and they're like pineapples, because apparently there's like a pineapple in every scene of the TV show or something. I don't know. There's all these like little like inside jokes and stuff. So fans would show up and just be there all day, and it's just such a great experience because the production crew is so great. They'd all like go out and meet everybody and talk to them. It was like,
they were friendly,
awesome, so great. So yeah, so I'll be doing that, and then I'm sure they'll have something else for me to do.
I am sure. Well, thank you again for all the useful information and all this different stuff, because you are at the top of the game as far as the locations world, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Mike, thank you.
Well, you should. I know you by now would be a location manager if you wanted it, but I don't think you want to be in those shoes, because I know that's a lot of work and it'll take you away from your family. And
totally. Stuff. Yeah, maybe one day when Freddie's older, like if she's a teen, like I'm 37. I'll be 37, I think, this month. So, the way I look at it is I have lots of time. My dad was 50 when he went to film school. So
when Freddie's old enough to PA.
Exactly. Pay your own way through life. So what's that, like 12 or 13? Right?
Yeah, no doubt, eh? Oh my God. How much? PAs make a lot now. Like they got the bump, right?
Well, because of minimum wage. So when I first started, it was $164 a day forever.
Yeah.
I mean, for it until they bumped up the minimum wage. Like it's people don't realize that on a film set. I think a lot of the other union members used to think that we were making like $300 a day too, sitting at that door. So that's why we got treated in a certain way sometimes. But then you'd have to look at them and be like, dude, I literally make half of what you make and have to deal with people like you treating me like a dick all day long.
Yeah.
So now it's closer to 270 or something. So whatever minimum wage is for a 15-hour day. So it'll be minimum wage for the 8 hours, time and a half till 12, and double time to 15.
So serious money now.
I mean, it's not cheap to live in Vancouver, but I think it's a competitive rate for sure. I think that a PA today could work full time, live here, and probably still have some money left over.
Oh yeah, that was the most money I've ever made.
Yeah.
When I was van driving, I was pulling some big, and that was 164, and then went up to.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, went up to, I forget what, 190 something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then 2 something. I can't remember how the pay scale, but anyway. Yeah. Okay, well, I could keep talking to you for hours.
I know, sorry. I keep
don't be.
Looking at the clock. Thank you so much for having me, and I would love to come back. Like this was really great. It really did fly by.
Oh yeah, no, I will totally invite you back, and I got to get Jason in here for sure too, and talk to him, because he's got a story that's.
You better block off a few hours for him.
All right, take care, Cole.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
That was fantastic. Cole is always so cool. Anyway, join me next Monday when I sit down with Shannon Kaplan, who is the Vice President of Women in Film and Television Vancouver. She opens my eyes to a lot of things, and we have a great conversation. So until next week, have a good one, and I will see you then. All right, take care.